Hi, everybody. My name is Sally Keane, and I'm head of sales at LinkedIn. So what I used to do at this point in presentations was go, hands up who hasn't got a LinkedIn profile, but I'm assuming that's nobody. So that's a good start. So I'm going to talk to you today about three things: vision, strategy and planning, and culture, and why they're important to me and how I look for them in hiring. And then I'm going to tell you a little story about how I changed the process at LinkedIn from when we were a startup to ensure that I was hiring for those three reasons. So the first one is vision. So I'm sure you work in great organisations that have very clear visions, and you work for leaders that have really clear visions. And that's great because vision is about clarity. You may have heard the saying, which is, if you've got a dart and you try and throw it and there's no dartboard, you can't get to where you're going, etc. So vision is really important, not just from a leadership perspective and the vision that I set my team, but also as an individual contributor. What's the vision of your business? So how are you thinking big? How are you thinking against the status quo? How are you going to challenge what you're doing now to what you're doing again in 12 months? So vision is really, really important. The next one is strategy and planning. So we all work for organisations that demand a lot of growth. And I say to my team, this year, I've just come out of a great year. We're going into another year which has a lot of growth expected. So I say to my team, if you come in and do the same thing that you did last year, guess what? You're not going to grow. You're not going to hit your numbers. So what are you going to do that's going to be different this year? So strategy and planning is really, really key. So what I do is I make my team plan for 6 months ahead, and I make them present to me about their key customers and what they're going to do differently this year. So, for example, who is your key customer? Who do you know? Who don't you know? What is the macroeconomic factors that could affect you from growing this business? Do you know their CMO? Has the CEO left? What's the share price of that company? What are the things that could affect you from growing that business? So strategy and planning is really, really important. The next one is culture, and I am the self-declared culture vulture at LinkedIn. It's very, very important to me because I passionately believe that culture is everything. It's what builds teams, it's what keeps them there, and what makes people be successful. So when I talk about culture, a lot of people, when I talk about this, are like, oh, culture, yeah. Another Silicon Valley company talking about culture. But what does culture actually mean? So culture for me means that it's not just about being a great person in the office. It's about how do you show up in meetings? How do you show up when you come into the office? What's your mood like on the floor? Well, how are you adding to that person's day? How are you going into brainstorms? How are you adding to the brainstorm? How are you saying yes and, not no but? How are you thinking about how you can help others be successful? You may be the most successful salesperson in the world in your current role, but if you're not going to help others around you and elevate the team, then you're not going to be successful at LinkedIn. So those are the three things that I look for and that are really important to me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about how I changed the process at LinkedIn around this fact. So when we were a startup and we were recruiting and trying to scale quickly, we did what everyone else did. So we said, okay, here's a brief. Here's some resources. We'll give you a call. We'll pretend to be the clients, and you can phone us up and you can question us and get some information. And are you a good discovery person? Can you ask good questions? Tick, great. And then we'll give you some resources. Then you can then present back to us using our products about that brief. Great, tick. But guess what would happen at that point? Anybody? They'd fail massively. And these were really, really successful people. And so it's like, okay, so what's wrong? Is it them, these really great people who are smashing it in their current role, or is it us? And because we are looking for different things, we need to think about the change of process. So what we did was we said, actually, okay, so what we're going to do is instead of you presenting to us about our products, why don't you come in and present to us about what you're currently doing? Present to us a pitch that you're really, really good at and that you've absolutely smashed it at. So the reason why we do that is a couple of reasons. So the first thing is that if you're really, really good at your job and you're smashing it, you should absolutely nail your pitch to us about what you're currently doing. So that's one. Number two is it gives us an idea about how you think about how you put together a proposal. Number three is that we get to see what everyone else is doing in the market and how they're putting together their proposal. So it's a really good competitor insight. And then what we do is we say, okay, so you talk to us for 5 minutes about why we should hire you. And you can interpret that whatever way you want. So if you've done your research, you should be looking at our culture and values and weave that into your story. So that's the process that I did. Those are 3 things that are important to me, and hopefully they should help.